before I get into the process of transferring one texture from one mesh to another, let's talk about shaders and just general shading setup. Because when you bring in your OBJ from Max, if you don't have a material file, it's just going to bring in something like open up the Hypershade here. It's probably going to just come up as a gray model like this here. Right, so this is the Hypershade. It's basically your material editor within Maya. I have that as a shelf button here, but to find it regularly, you go to Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade, and then there you go, Hypershade here. Right, so you'll probably bring in a mesh that looks like this, and you're going to have to make a shader or assign this initial shader with the with your actual texture, so that this actually somebody has something to transfer from and transfer to, right? I guess the easiest way to do that though is I'll make a new shader. I'm not sure how it is now, but in the past it was kind of a bad idea to change to Lambert 1 for reasons that I never really understood, but that's what I had been told. So Lambert 1, every new scene in Maya is going to have a Lambert 1, a particle cloud 1, and a shader glow, and everything else is what you make. That's probably been updated by now, to be honest, but just to keep things simple, I'm going to just leave that as it is, and then I'll make a new material here. So in your Hypershade, in the bottom left, there's this create menu here, and I can just create any sort of generic material. I'll choose a Lambert because I don't need the specularity like on a blend or a Fong. You could also just right click in this materials window, and I can do a create materials Lambert as well. Right? I can zoom in and out of this by holding Alt and right click, and I can but I mean that's not a huge thing, but in case for some reason you're stuck all the way out here, you can just Alt right click and zoom in. So let's just name this right away, just to build good habits. I'll call this Ember New Diffuse. And then in the color setting, right? Color, you can change the value of everything if I wanted to. So this is a dark one here. And first, I can middle mouse click and drag this shader onto this object here, or I can right click and then I can do assign material to selection. I guess this middle mouse click thing doesn't work as well as it used to. Pretty sure that's something that was standard before. But the most fail-safe though, because it's kind of easy to drop this on something else by accident if you have a complicated scene, is to just click on your mesh, right click, assign material to selection. So that's not very useful because I'm just changing a solid color, but if you click on the checkerboard next to that, that opens up how you want to create that diffuse, or to create that color. You can do it with the procedural texture here, or you can just point to a file, and then in this file under the image name tab you can click on the folder, and I'm going to point this to my Ember Spirit color. So that's my diffuse, and now you see that this is shaded properly. Well, it's actually not shaded properly because you can see that I can see through the head, and the reason that's happening is because there's an alpha channel associated with this target file, and this alpha channel, I'm not going to get too deep into why it's doing that, but to make things simple, let's just go double click on this shader to kind of kick us back to this upper level, like the most basic level. And then you'll see that on the color where we plugged in this texture, it turned into this square with a triangle. So this has an input into it, and I just want to right click on transparency here and break connection, and then I have my shader properly defined. now that I have this shader defined, I can go ahead and do the transfer maps thing to transfer the texture. One of the reasons why I also did this, if you watch the other video, is this file that was supplied by Valve has its own custom shader on it. And this custom shader, if you look at this, is much different from this basic Maya shader. So I'm guessing Maya is going to have a hard time figuring out where exactly the diffuse is in this shader. And then there's a possibility as well that the file paths are not working correctly. So that's why I went through the process or the trouble of making my own shader, just for the sake of making sure everything works within Maya. And that is the Hypershade, the very, very basic rundown of the Hypershade.